Thank you for plugging into this Family Life News podcast, streaming issues-driven, family-focused news.
This is Faith Under Fire. Each Thursday on Family Life, we give voice to religious battlegrounds in this nation. I'm your host, Tracy Lynn. With us today, Keisha Russell, counsel with First Liberty Institute. So, Keisha, we're seeing many cases in the news about workplace struggles for Christians who speak out about God's values. To best understand what a Christian's legal rights are at work, is our starting place the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission? What are the key tenets for religious accommodation?
Right. So at First Liberty Institute, which, we specialize in religious liberty litigation. And one of the things that we think people should know is that your employer is obligated to try to accommodate your religious beliefs. So in the event you face a situation at work and you're not sure if you can participate in an event or training or something like that, you are supposed to ask your employer for what's called a religious accommodation. And to the extent that the employer can accommodate you and it won't constitute what's called an undue burden for them, then the employer is supposed to try to do that. They're supposed to do it as long as it's not going to be, a really difficult thing for them to do. So the first thing you want to do is ask for it. If you think you're facing that decision, we always recommend you ask for it in writing. And then you see what the employer says. If they say no, then you can contact the EEOC and file a discrimination complaint and let them investigate for you. But certainly if you're in that situation, you can always contact First Liberty Institute at firstliberty.org and we can, help you figure it out.
Excellent. So you make a really good point that we should not just assume that our employer knows, that we need to speak out and vocalize that, or better yet, like you said, put it in writing. That way you've got proof and a date in case there is an eventual issue. Yes,
definitely. You want to try and communicate with the employer. Try and work it out with them first. A lot of times you may find that they're willing to accommodate you. And like I said, they're really supposed to accommodate you as long as it's not going to be something that results in some extreme difficulty for them. It's not going to put them out, make a very extreme financial impact or something like that. So if it's going to be easy for them to accommodate you, then in most cases they should. And if you ever have any questions before you get into the situation, or even before you ask for the religious accommodation, you can always call us, and it's possible that we can help and walk you through the process.
Thank you for making yourselves available. We may be familiar with the elementary phys ed teacher from Virginia who spoke, disputing that a biological boy can be a girl and vice versa. After being placed on leave from his job, he has since been reinstated. In our listening area, a public school teacher we'll call John tells us a student asked his opinion on whether being gay was right or wrong. The teacher told students he thinks it's wrong, and when pressed on why, he said, "My faith teaches me that it's a sin, but we're all sinners." John now says he's on administrative leave pending an investigation. So, Keisha, are there different guidelines for those deemed government workers, including public school teachers?
Well, in terms of public school teachers, you know that teachers are not supposed to proselytize the students. But the Supreme Court has pretty much told us that just because you cross the schoolhouse gates, it doesn't mean you lose all of your constitutional rights. So there's still some aspects of freedom of speech and certainly freedom of religious exercise. First Liberty has a case right now with a man named Coach Kennedy, who was fired from his job as a high school football coach because he went on the football field to pray for a couple of minutes by himself after the games to thank God for the victories. And he was fired for that, and we're representing him right now. And one of the things we want people to recognize is that just because students are present, it doesn't mean a teacher does not have the right to express their personal beliefs on issues. Of course, it needs to be appropriate, and they can't be proselytizing to students, although it's going to depend on the facts of each situation.
Yeah. And can you explain what proselytizing means in layman's terms?
Yeah, so proselytizing is trying to convert students to your religion, and we also know that there's case law that says that teachers can't lead students in prayer. So those things will constitute proselytizing, and that would be something that teachers could not do.
Right. Thank you for explaining that, because I think some people may or may not be familiar with that word. Keisha, now this is kind of the brainiac mode here. Has Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964 been changed since 2014 that you know of, especially with the push to be sure members of the LGBT community are not discriminated against when it comes to work?
Right now, there's no changes to that. There's been no substantive changes to the text of those acts. They remain the same. The Bostick decision that came out last year really applies to the employment context, but we know that the Biden administration is issuing guidance wanting to interpret that Bostick decision, which in that decision the court said that the term sex includes sexual orientation and gender identity, that interpretation should extend to Title VII and some other provisions. So right now, the Biden administration has issued that guidance, but the text of the act has not changed. And so what you can expect is probably some cases challenging that guidance. And, we'll see how far things go and how far the Supreme Court is willing to take that Bostick decision.
One source has told me in the past that the Biden administration has at least one person that they've hired sifting through all of the current policies to see, almost looking for whatever could be considered a civil rights issue.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I had not heard that, but it certainly, doesn't surprise me. But even on this end, in the religious liberty context, First Liberty is certainly remaining vigilant and keeping watch over what's going on. And we will take every opportunity that we can to defend religious freedom now and in the future, no matter who is in office.
Excellent. We appreciate that. Keisha, is it accurate to say that the EEOC's standards are not only for Christians?
Oh, of course. Those standards apply to all religions, all nationalities, etc. So, yes, they apply to all religions, certainly.
And my understanding is it's based on established religions. It's not like you make up your own religion tomorrow and then say you can't eat that or you can't attend that event because whatever.
Yes, generally speaking, yes, that's correct.
So, Keisha, where can we go to get tips to brush up on our rights as Christians in the workplace?
Well, you can go to firstliberty.org, and certainly you can always give us a call and submit requests for legal help.
That's Keisha Russell with First Liberty Institute. I'm Tracy Lynn, Family Life News.